Hello and welcome, podcast listeners. My name is Ellen Stewart, and I am the Pushy Broad from the Bronx.
She's the pushy broad from the Bronx, New York. Follow her voice, a straight dog is nice. She's a pushy broad from the Bronx, oh yeah. Don't be surprised if you wanna listen twice. Make decisions, find the right choice. Know yourself better, find your own voice. It's okay if you need help today, cause everybody needs a little push. From the pushy broad from the Bronx, New York.
Welcome to my weekly podcast, with new episodes airing every Monday. I hope to inspire you, coach you, sometimes make you laugh, and give you the push moment you need to start thinking differently about the decisions you make in your life. The topic of this podcast, episode 26, is how much is too much? Do you or someone you care about have more than 2 drinks a day? Has pain medication or drug use become part of your everyday life? If that's the case, then you're not alone. 1 out of every 4 adults, which is over 40 million Americans, is in the same category. Although it may not be considered alcoholism, having more than 2 drinks a day is definitely risky. Although most use medicine as directed, misuse of and addiction to prescription drugs and pain medications are public health problems for many Americans. However, addiction rarely occurs among those who use medicine as prescribed. The risk for addiction exists when drugs are used in ways other than prescribed. Risky drinking or overdependence on drugs can negatively impact every area of your life: your health, your job, your relationships, your family, your friends. It could also even contribute to sexual dysfunction, depression, hypertension, breast cancer, and many other medical problems. So, how do you know if your drinking or drug use is actually risky? There are ways to discover the telltale signs. Let's examine them in this episode.
Everybody needs a little push. Everybody needs a little push. Everybody needs a little push. Everybody needs a little push.
Dear Pushy Broad from the Bronx, I can never understand why people have drinking or drug problems. I mean, I drink and smoke only on the weekends or whenever I feel like it. I can stop drinking at any time. I don't understand why others can't do the same. Mike from San Jose.
Thank you so much for your email, Mike. I cannot tell you how many times I get faced with these questions from parents, from teachers, from friends and relatives, all wanting to know why someone just can't stop drinking or someone just can't stop doing drugs. If you are that person, then basically you are blessed with not having the disease of addiction. You can walk away after 1 drink, or you can walk away after a meal and not feel compelled to want to eat more. Or you can walk away from maybe an occasional smoke and not pick it up. But if you're one of those people that feels compelled, that is obsessed with getting drunk, obsessed with getting high, thinking about it all the time, then you have an addiction, and that is a disease. According to the American Society of Addiction Medicine, it is a chronic chemical brain disorder, which means the obsession and compulsion is not easily put down. It is difficult to walk away. So you understand that not everybody thinks the way you do. Maybe you don't have a compulsion for alcohol or drugs, but Maybe you have a compulsion to keep watching TV all the time, or to play video games without end, or buy a million things online. Whatever it is, if you have a compulsion for anything, then you can understand what addiction to alcohol and drugs is all about. If you don't have that kind of compulsion in your life, then be grateful that you don't have the disease of addiction. But understand that for many people out there, that's not the case. So try to be compassionate and forgiving, and understand that we did not ask for this disease. People that are addicted to alcohol and drugs did not ask for that to happen. It's just something that their body chemistry cannot tolerate. Here is another letter from one of my listeners. Dear Pushy Broad from the Bronx, I'm in my middle 40s with 2 children ages 8 and 10. They're engaged in many after-school activities which require my being a chauffeur to their various tournaments and events. My girlfriends and I usually meet around these events and have afternoon get-togethers that always seem to involve wine or alcohol of some kind. It's our afternoon, let's wind down, escape from the kids, freedom for a couple of hours. It's only 1 or 2 drinks for me, but I've noticed that it's more for some of my girlfriends. I also noticed that we get back in our cars and drive our children around while we are mildly intoxicated, or sometimes even more seriously so. Should I be concerned that this behavior is a real problem? Jackie from Allentown, PA. Thank you so much for your email, Jackie. The best thing I can tell you, and the quickest thing I can tell you, is yes, this behavior is not acceptable for so many reasons. No one has any business drinking and then driving their children around. Yes, this behavior is troublesome, not only for you, but all of the girlfriends that you hang out with. Let me tell you why. First of all, in all 50 states in the United States, the legal limit is 0.08% blood alcohol concentration. That's the legal limit for driving under the influence or driving while impaired. For commercial drivers, 0.04 can result in a DUI or a conviction. And 1 unit of alcohol is measured as a half a glass of wine or 10 milliliters or 8 grams of pure alcohol. This equals 1 single measure of whiskey or a third of a pint of beer or a half a standard glass of red wine. So, that's 1 unit. An average liver can process approximately 1 unit of alcohol per hour. That means that if you drink more than that, it'll take you roughly 1 hour per 1/2 a glass of wine to no longer feel intoxicated and have the liver process the alcohol in your system. So if you want a half a glass of wine with lunch, you cannot drive for at least an hour. As a good rule of thumb, 2 pints of regular strength lager or beer or 2 small glasses of wine would put you over the limit. There are certain factors like your weight, your sex, your metabolism, and how much you've eaten all day, which also contribute to how much your body processes alcohol and how quickly your body processes. So if you are sitting there with your girlfriends having 2 drinks and then getting right back in the car and driving, you are not only in danger of a DUI, but you are very seriously impaired. So I need you to stop drinking in the afternoon, taking your kids around everywhere, and start a campaign to tell your girlfriends to stop doing the same. Here's another letter from one of my listeners.
Dear Pushy Broad from the Bronx, my college-age son is smoking pot. I know he is dabbling in marijuana because he has been honest with me about it. I don't think there's anything wrong with his smoking weed. After all, it's probably a college phase, and as he gets older, the urge to smoke will dissipate. I was the same as him when I was in college, but I still want to know, what do you think? Sam from Palm Springs.
So glad to hear from you, Sam. The Pushy Broad from the Bronx is not going to debate whether or not marijuana should be legalized. That, I believe, is a personal opinion, and I have my own personal feelings around it. But nevertheless, in today's world, legalization of marijuana is a real thing in many states. All I can say is this. If you have an addiction, then marijuana legalization will not be helpful to you. And in addition to that, here's the thing about smoking weed or drinking in college. Many parents come to me and say, I know it's a phase. I did it in school. I realized as I got out of school and I got older, I learned to separate the difference between social drinking or social drugging and experimenting and then moving on. Okay, that's great. I'm not going to argue with that. But what's happening with your son or daughter? Is getting high and smoking weed the number one topic for them in 4 years of college? Is that all they're doing? Is there a pattern? Are they restricting their use to the weekends and not every single weekend? And when they do it, do they do it to excess? Most people think, well, if I don't drink every day or I don't drug every day, then I'm not an addict. Wrong. If when you do something, you are doing it to excess, guess what? You have a problem. There is an addiction. So, talk to your son. How often is he smoking weed? And is anything else happening in the meantime? Are his grades failing? Does he feel a little lethargic? Is he bowing out of things that he would normally participate in? Is there anything else going on in his life that you think smoking weed is the cause? Is he suffering in any other way? Is he trying to escape? Is he being a little bit more introverted? Is he in some kind of pain? You have to discover what he's doing and why he's doing it to determine whether or not this could be a phase. So keep talking to your son and don't automatically assume that what was good for you is now going to be what's good for him. Do you want quick answers to things with no BS? Here's my segment, No or Yes.
When you need a quick answer, no BS. Ask the Pushy Broad and she'll say no or yes.
How do you know if your drinking pattern or drug use is actually risky? There are telltale signs. Health providers call this the cage survey. Do you feel like you're trapped in a cage? So, this time, the Pushy Broad from the Bronx wants you to answer no or yes to the following questions. Have you ever felt you should cut down on your drinking or drug use? Have people annoyed you by criticizing your drinking or drug use? Have you ever felt bad or guilty about your drinking or drug use? Have you ever had a drink first thing in the morning to steady your nerves or get rid of a hangover? Or do you start the morning off with a pain pill when you may not need it? If you answered yes to any of these cage questions, then seek help. Here are some other hard questions about drinking or drugging. I need you to see if you can answer no or yes to these.
Do you or a loved one consume at least 3 drinks per day? Have you or a loved one consumed more than the doctor prescribed medication in one day? Has a relative, friend, or doctor recommended that you or a loved one cut down on drinking? Have you or someone else been injured as a result of your drinking or drug use? Do you or a loved one find it difficult to stop drinking or using drugs once started? Have you or a loved one been unable to remember what happened after drinking or using drugs?
If one or more of your answers are yes, then I need you to talk to your healthcare provider or a professional and seek help. You may have an abuse or an addiction problem. If you suspect that any of these questions pertain to a loved one, then I need you to call their attention to it and see if they can answer these questions honestly, and maybe together you can seek help. What if you can solve the biggest problems in your life if you only knew how to think about them differently? Do you have trouble making decisions because you feel torn or paralyzed or simply afraid of making the wrong choice? Do you feel that maybe you could live a happier life, but you just don't know where to begin? Do you ever wonder why you have trouble connecting in relationships because you're always in conflict? If you could change the way you think about things, then your feelings and your actions would change as well. If you had the tools to change negative thoughts to positive thoughts, how different would your life be? How would thinking differently allow you to make healthy decisions, to energize your self-esteem, recharge your relationships, truly transform your life? My breakthrough program, Think Differently, Take Command of Your Life, will do just that. Learn more about it at pushybroadfromthebronx.com. Here's my next segment, 10 Minutes of Tears. This segment is to help remind people that things always get better. We can feel those negative or sad emotions, but we cannot dwell on them. We cannot live there forever. We accept our roadblocks because we know they are there, and I'll give you suggestions to help you find ways to move forward, or sometimes cry about it, and hopefully laugh it off and try to find happiness through all of it. So here is our 10 minutes of tears.
When you're feeling sad and kind of blue, rather lost and not really in it, don't stay angry, lost, or confused. 10 minutes of tears is certainly for you. Please cry, but only for 10 minutes.
In all of the years that the Pushy Broad from the Bronx has been working in addiction recovery, I have never come across a 10 minutes of tears moment in this situation that has turned out with a laugh. The only way that we can actually laugh is if the addict starts to recover, because we know that when they're alive, there is hope. But there are so many things that we want to take into consideration when we are thinking about drinking and drugging. First of all, on the average of 40% of people who are incarcerated for violent crimes say that they were under the influence of alcohol or drugs during the time of their offense. This is according to the statistics from alcohol rehabs. Alcohol plays a large role in criminal activities and violence. Excessive drinking has the ability to lower inhibitions and impair a person's judgment and increase the risk of aggressive behaviors. Because of this, alcohol-related violence and crime rates are on the rise, not only throughout the country, but throughout the globe. Over the past several decades, researchers have examined the relationship between alcohol, drugs, and crime. Data suggests that engaging in prolonged drinking or binge drinking or significant drug use increases your risk of committing violent offenses. Giving into the harmful effects of alcohol or drugs can change your life in an instant. This is much longer than 10 minutes of tears. It can not only affect your life, but everybody around you. You are putting so many people in danger. So, this is more than a 10 minutes of tears moment. These moments can change the course of your lives, but so can staying in recovery. If you're not sure whether or not you have a problem with alcohol or drugs, then do yourself a favor. Give yourself a test. Stop doing them. Just stop. Completely. If you have no problems, then be abstinent. Tell yourself that for 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, you will go without picking up a drink or a drug. And then see what happens. See how much better you feel. See if thinking about drinking or drugging now becomes a major preoccupation for you. How often is it on your mind? Find out if alcohol and drugs is a big influence in your life. Find out if they come before anything else. How important is it to get high? Do you have to have a drink or a drug to have a good time, to party? Do you know how to have fun without drinking or drugging? See if you actually have a problem. One of the best ways to test that is to become abstinent and see how far you get. If you find that you cannot stay abstinent or you become preoccupied with the thoughts of drinking or drugging, understand you have a serious problem. There are so many wonderful resources in this country, affordable to every level of income. Start to do some research. If you have additional questions and you want to talk to me about it, go to my website at Pushy Broad for the Bronx, go to the section that says Ask Ellen, and ask your questions. I'd be more than happy to send you the information that you need. Here's my last segment, I'm Talking Here.
I'm talking here.
I'm talking here. Listen. Learn. Pay attention. I'm talking here. So many people ask me, what do I do if I know that one of my loved ones has a problem with drinking or drugging? I am a firm believer in if you see something, say something. If you can honestly take a listen to this podcast and answer those questions in your head and think, my husband has a problem drinking, my son or daughter or friend has a problem drinking or drugging, or I have a problem with addiction, then you must do something. It is a matter of life and death. I am not minimizing this. I have, unfortunately, in this industry for the past 14 years, seen so many good people, young and old, no longer with us because of this terrible disease. Speak up. Constantly speak up. Speak up until they get help. If this does not pertain to you and you are not the addict, then continuously talk to that person. Get your family involved. Get their friends involved. It is a matter of life and death. And if this is you, like I said, if you don't think you have a problem, then just stop and see what that's like for a long period of time, at least 90 days. See how long you can go. And as I said before, just because you drink once a week doesn't necessarily mean you don't have an abuse problem. Because if you go to drink and you want to finish that bottle and you want more, or you want to smoke pot and then you want to do something else on top of it, then you have an abuse problem that you seriously have to look at. If you see something, say something. Do not give up. Rally your loved ones around you and make sure that you let this person know how much you love them, how much you care about them, and how much you will support them in getting clean and sober. There are many resources out there, and all you need to do is ask. As I said, you can start by asking Ellen on the website, pushybroadfromthebronx.com. I'd be more than happy to give you a wide range of resources for you to explore and then make your own decisions. I also work as a life coach in recovery, and if you want some personal one-on-one time, go to my one-on-one coaching sessions and we can talk about this disease. If you see something, say something. Do not stay silent. That may be the difference between life and death. This is Ellen Stewart, the Pushy Broad from the Bronx, saying thanks for listening, and remember, everybody needs a little push.
From the Pushy Broad from the Bronx, New York.
The Pushy Broad from the Bronx would like to thank her production team: songwriter, composer, musician, and sound man Sam Goche, voice artist and announcer Taylor Goche. Oh, that's me! And thanks to collaborative writer and assistant production manager Richard Torres, virtual assistant and social media guru Kimberly Studdard. Special thanks to Laura Kravitz, production manager, and Susan Herman, collaborative writer. And a very special thanks to Love Love Studios in Brooklyn, for recording and mixing our music.
Here is disclaimer information that we are required to produce.
Professional coaches provide an ongoing partnership designed to help clients produce fulfilling results in their personal and professional lives. Coaches help people improve their performances and enhance the quality of their lives. Coaching services received from certified life coach Ellen Stewart, the Pushy Broad from the Bronx, are not offered as a substitute for professional mental health care or medical care, and are not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any mental health or medical conditions. The Pushy Broad from the Bronx is not acting as a mental health counselor or a medical professional. All comments and ideas offered by Ellen Stewart, the pushy broad from the Bronx, are solely for the purpose of aiding her audience in achieving their goals, and hopefully keep you smiling in the process.